Hello, so today we will be doing something a little different. Okay, I'm back. So I have been sharing a lot about grad school, applying to grad school on this channel for the last 5 years, and I will do something different today. Today I'll be sharing a bit about my own journey up to going to grad school. Also, now that I've graduated for almost, I think I left business school almost 5 years ago. So I will be sharing what that journey was like up to grad school, and also post-graduation, what life is like now, a little about that. So that's what I'll be sharing, and I hope you get some inspiration, some lessons, or just enjoy it. Also, we celebrated 5 years on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, so thank you to those of you that have been watching me and learning from my videos and sharing to your family and friends for the last 5 years. Thank you to you, and I hope I keep doing this. I hope you keep finding the videos helpful. All right, all of that good stuff said, let us get into it. Okay, so because I'm overly structured, I have planned for this video to be in 4 sections. My background, and 2 is business school application, like grad school application era. The 3rd is actually what I'll call the B school era, where I was actually in school and I graduated. And then the final one will be post-graduation, what life has been like, working, career, and things like that. All right, so a little bit of background. I grew up in Lagos. A lot of you know that. Grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. I am number 5 of 6 kids, and I started working really early in my life, before a lot of my friends and peers. So I have been working for a long time. Probably teaching is my first job, but I have run multiple businesses throughout my life. I think my first official business was in a jewelry brand. I don't even know if I can call it a brand, but I used to sell jewelry when I was in college, and that used to give me a lot of money. Not a lot of money, but good enough for my 17-18-year-old self. So I did that. But the business I was most passionate about was, I actually thought throughout my life, since I was a kid, I thought I was going to be a fashion designer. So I spent years preparing to be a fashion designer, and at some point in my 20s, very early 20s, I actually started a fashion brand. And I learned, before then, for like 5 years throughout college, I was paying a lot of money to go to a really nice fashion school in Lagos that was so expensive or pricey at the time. But I just had that vision that I was going to be a fashion designer. I don't know where that dream is, but I did what I had to do. I also remember the first time there was a time I actually quit my job to go full-time into fashion. And funny story, I came back months later and begged my boss for that job back, and he's like, yes, I will give you the job. And I went back to work. So that's a bit about that, like growing up and up to like my early 20s. I just, like, if you were around me at the time, you would think by now I'll be some big fashion designer, but I don't know where that is. Maybe I'll pick it back up in my 40s. But I don't know, but that's something that I did. And then I started my career at a non-profit over a decade ago. So I worked at a non-profit. I really enjoyed the job, and it was more like a public-private partnership at the time under Goodluck Jonathan's administration. That was the president at the time. So we had a public-private partnership that I really loved, and then that's my other camera. And then I left that after a little less than 2 years, I believe, and then joined investment banking. So that's where I spent most of my time before going to business school. So I worked in investment banking. It was a lot. It was a lot, and you will hear more about that season or phase of my life in the next section of today's video that I'm going to talk about now. But I worked in investment banking, and it was maybe 3 years after I started in investment banking, that's when I started applying to schools. So let's talk about what that was like. So it was after working, I would say full-time work, for maybe almost 5 years, that I started applying to schools. But this was actually my second time applying to schools. In 2014, I believe, I had applied to grad schools. At the time, I was applying to master's programs. I don't remember master's in what, maybe master's in economics. Oh, I went to University of Lagos and studied economics for undergrad. That's the college I went to. 2014, I had actually applied to so many schools, but at the time I was focused on a master's program, and I was also focused on the UK as a destination. So I had gotten into probably 5 schools. I remember my friend and I, shout out to Simi. So my friend and I applied to the same schools, University of Glasgow. We were really passionate at the time, but we quickly learned that a lot of those schools, we got into the schools, we got funding, what you would call good funding for the UK, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. It was not something significant in my opinion. So we just quickly realized maybe it's better we go work instead of like going into like it's better for us to continue working instead of like going into grad school after just maybe 1 year of work or something like that. So that's what we did. I decided not to pursue those schools, and so that phase just ended. So now many years later, here I was applying again to schools after like working almost 5 years. Now at the time I wanted to go to just one school. I wanted to go to Stanford. I had gone for this information session or something where Stanford came to Lagos, and I just really loved it. And I'm like, okay, this is the school. I'm not applying to any other school. So I wrote my GMAT. I did not get the score that I wanted, and so I took the GMAT again. That's the second time, and I just kept trying with practice tests, with the actual test, until I got the score I thought was good enough for Stanford. And so I applied to only Stanford. Now, before even the application, I had applied to Stanford Africa Graduate Fellowship, and that fellowship was going to pay for everything, my tuition, my living expenses, everything to go to Stanford for business school. Like, it was the best thing ever. So I actually was shortlisted for the fellowship. I was excited. All I needed to do was now apply to the school and get in, and last minute that didn't work out. I remember I cried so much because remember, this was the only school I applied to. I had taken GMAT multiple times just to get that score I wanted, and I had been shortlisted for the best funding ever that anyone could ask for at a top school. Like, it was just the best thing, and last minute that did not work out. And yeah, I cried so much. I was devastated. I had not researched any other school. It was just Stanford. So the next time I was applying, of course I applied to so many schools and ended up getting to Yale. And when I got the admission offer from Yale, I was overly happy. I remember where I was at work. I was working in investment banking. I got the call from Yale, and then that excitement quickly died, maybe within 24 hours after I realized, wait, this didn't come with any significant funding. I mean, I got funding, but it wasn't significant. And I remember when my friend said I should, ask the school for more, I was like, no, I don't even have the right skills to beg. I'm not that person or to ask. It's not a skill I had built, so it was so like cringe. But I ended up asking. I got over $70,000 additional, and that was 50% of my tuition. Now I still had 50% of tuition and living expenses to go, so I ended up using a combination of like loans, and I also got a sponsorship letter from my friends and my boss. And my boss, yeah, I don't know if he remembers my boss, but I don't even know if he remembers me, but he wrote me a sponsorship letter. So that's what happened. Now there's a part of the story that I think is important, and that is when I was preparing for those GMAT tests. I was working it was a very busy period on the project I was on. We were doing this capital raise for some of the biggest, oldest brands or companies in Nigeria at the time. Really great experience. I loved it in terms of what I was learning, but it was a lot. I would work till late. At the time I had to, because I was living on the mainland. Okay, I'm an Ikeja babe. I was living on the mainland in Lagos, and so going from the mainland to the island, and also doing a very stressful job, but also preparing for GMAT. At some point I realized this is not going to work. You won't have enough time to prep. So I started staying with friends, different part. Like, I once stayed with my colleague in Lekki, and then a friend in VI, so that I could get to work 6 a.m. from VI to Ikoyi, I could get to work 6 a.m. so I could prepare before work starts, because when work starts, there was no way I could actually prepare, because work doesn't end until like 11 p.m. sometimes we used to go home 2 a.m. sometimes. Those were interesting times, but that's what I had to do to get the score that I wanted on the GMAT test. And that's kind of, I do think that's such an important point to share, because sometimes things, and this is me, that if the Stanford thing had just worked out, I would just have gotten all the funding. Yeah, I was begging for more funding. It just felt like things were going up down, but that journey. Ended up accepting the offer from Yale, and then applying to loans, and I've shared a lot about my loan journey. So let's talk about what business school was like. That's another story. Business school, I started business school 2018. Immediately school started, next thing, like within 3 weeks, I was going for conferences just so I could get a job. Because I had taken loans, and that was something in my head every time. And I'll tell you the lesson I learned from this season, but my video will be a little all over the place, but we'll talk about the lessons later. But once I got to school, my number one priority wasn't even like to study, it was to get a job so I could pay my loans. So I would go for all these conferences. I remember my first time in Detroit, I went for a conference. That was 3 weeks after school started. My friend was like, come on, doing, like, nobody's recruiting yet. Nobody's thinking about jobs here yet. Just enjoy business school. But I was like, nope, I have a lot of loans, and I know there's no one to help to pay those loans, so I need to hustle it out. So I would go for conferences. I used to go to New York a lot. My friend was talking, I was talking with a couple of friends a few days ago, and they're like, Doing, why do you know New York that much? I'm like, I recruited like my life depended on it, and I was always going to New York to meet with one company or the other, to have informational chats with people. I did that a lot. So my goal in business school, my number one priority wasn't even to make friends, which is wrong or weird, but it was just to get a job, because that money, it was scary, because no one in my family, no one from where I'm from, like my family setting, had taken that kind of loan before that I know about. At some point, everyone was getting job offers and internship offers. They were deciding which one they should take. I did not get a job, even though I started before most people. Even this my friend that was like, Doing, nobody's thinking about recruiting yet and everything, he got a job. I was just there, no job. Like, it was hard for me to get that internship, at least an internship. Nope, I did not get it, and last minute I got one, and it was with Google X. I think I can share, and that job just holds a special place in my heart, because I was down, I was scared, I had not experienced that level of rejection before. So got a job last minute with Google X. The best. That job just, it's still, till now when I think about that job, I'm emotional, because turns out went on that internship I did it for 4 months, which was longer than what most business school students, like the duration of their internship. I wanted to stay there. Did that internship. When I finished, many months later, actually, when I went back to school, I got an email from them about the impact I had made at that job, and the quality of the work, and how other people are leveraging that work. And I remember I just closed my laptop and cried, because I begged for this job. I begged people to I begged company to see me as a qualified person, and that I work really hard and things like that, but no, nobody cares. I finally got this job, and I did great at it. The team was great, they respected me. And to get this random email probably 5 months after that internship, that what I did was still being used, I just cried. Okay. I was a crybaby. Maybe I'm a crybaby. So that's what I did. Went back to school. In my second year, I started recruiting again, and this time I got into consulting. Now, I wish I did things differently. I wish I lived in the moment a bit more. I wish I just enjoyed business school a bit more and not always worried, especially my first year. But my second year, when I came back, even my classmates were like, oh okay. because I changed my look when I went to California to work at Google X. I cut my hair, I lost a lot of weight, I just came back as this sassy girl ready to enjoy business school kind of thing. It was clear, okay, that I was there in my second year to enjoy. But that my first year was full of fear, and I just wish I paid a bit more attention, because first year is when you are building some of those friendships and relationships, and people invite me for events. I'll be like, no, I'm preparing for this chat or the other, this interview or the other, or this application. So I wish I did things a little differently then. So anyway, let's talk about life post-graduation. I graduated 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years. Let's talk about what that life has been like. All right, so I went back to business school ready to just enjoy the moment a bit more. I got a job in consulting. That job was so instrumental in my journey. I got that job. I was supposed to start 2020, maybe summer 2020. The pandemic happened. That job was in New York. I had all my plans, the house I was going to live in. I already put all of those in place. And then I came here to Washington State to visit my boyfriend at the time, and I got stuck here, and I'm still here. So I shared a little about that journey 4 years ago. I think I posted a video. That video, yeah, somewhere on my channel. I posted it 4 years ago, I believe, 4.5 years. So I ended up in Washington State. I still live in the Seattle area. Since then, it was totally unplanned. I was meant to live in New York. I got my job there. I already found housing and everything. So yeah, pandemic happened and our lives changed. I also started creating videos and sharing online. Not in the pandemic, it was before. I actually probably recorded my first video December 2019. So that's kind of why I celebrated 5 years sometime in January, because I posted a video in January. So it was before the pandemic was declared, at least in the United States. So I stayed here, worked remotely, and at some point got married to my husband in 2020. We had a baby 2021. I continued working. I have been working since then. And that job in consulting, I'll say that job paid my loans. I've shared a lot about how I paid my loans, but was that an easy job for me? No. It was not an easy journey, especially when my daughter came into the picture and I was still working. If anyone has worked in that space with a baby, they will tell you how much work, how much effort it takes. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful now that I look back. You know, in retrospect, things make sense. But in the moment, you're crying and going through it with tears. That's how that journey was like for me. So I also had a major surgery during this job, which I feel like really impacted me in terms of my career and things like that. But then when my daughter also came and pregnancy, that was just next level. Okay, but now when I look back, I'm like, yeah, you know, that job really helped me. So I paid my loans with, like, my focus. You see, when I was in school, my focus was to get a job. When I was doing this job in consulting, my focus was to pay my loans. I'm like, I need to pay these loans. I need to just clear it out. And that's what I did. That's how I was able to pay my loans in a year, because all the benefits I got, my sign-on bonus, my pay every month, everything was going towards my loans. You can watch the video where I shared how I paid my $100,000 in student loans, and I continued making videos because I just used to enjoy it. And I also started like a consulting business for those that are trying to get into school and want my time one-on-one. I did that for years, got so many great testimonials that to me are still unbelievable. I have some of those testimonials on my website. You can check them out. At some point decided I wanted to take a break on doing one-on-one for many different reasons, but looking back, that job was the job I needed for that season of my life. And so that's what happened. And in 2022, towards the end of 2022, I left the company and joined another company, and now I work in tech, and I have been working in tech for the last 3 years. Woo! And I'm still working in tech. All right, so I have shared all of those things. Now let's talk about just what I think. Just what I think about, and I'm trying to get my notes, but it is not coming. What I think about all of those things. If you so a couple of things. I've been through different seasons, and I feel like even now I feel like I'm going through a different season as well. And some of the rejection, one thing that a lot of international students and immigrants can probably relate to, it's just how many rejection we go through. Sometimes it's getting a new job, sometimes it's even getting into the school you want. Sometimes it's related to visa and immigration, like trying to stay in the country. And we go through a lot of rejection. I did not even share in this video about my H-1B struggle to get a work visa. I was never shortlisted. At some point while working, I was asked to leave my job because of my visa situation. I was heavily pregnant at the time. I was 8 months pregnant. I've shared that story somewhere on this channel. So yeah, I think I felt like my life will always be like this, and the reality of my life is like it's very far from straightforward. My career, even my content journey, there are times I'm like, why am I even creating this content? The channel is not growing. What is this? Do people even find it valuable? So every aspect of my life, being a mom, like it's not as straightforward as I think it will be. So I hope this just encourages you. A couple of lessons I have learned so far. One is our brains amplify our problems, amplify what we're going through. Sometimes, you know, the way I said my focus was just to get that job, and then my focus became to just pay that loan. The truth is, like, when you have one, I don't want to call it a small challenge because those challenges are real. At least me, it felt like my brain was narrowing down on those issues and just like not living in the moment. I wish I lived in the moment a bit more. I wish I formed those relationships a bit more. Because at the end of the day, this is the second lesson, things will be better off than they are now. Like, ignore whatever. 5 years from now, you will look back and be like, oh, why was I crying about that thing? Like, my life was going to end if I am unable to pay my loan. So I know those are real issues, but I just wish I lived in the moment a bit more. And all right, that's it for today's video. I just wanted to share a summary. Of course, I've over summarized my life, but if you enjoyed today's video, let me know if you just have questions or you want me to share a bit more. I'm also rethinking what I want to share on this channel, so I'd love your help. If there's any kind of topic about different aspects of my life that I just shared that you want to know about, and you want me to start sharing a bit more of that on this channel, please, this time I really want your suggestion. If it's about motherhood, being a working mom, applying to jobs, if you want me to share a bit about that, if you want me to share more grad school content, just let me know, please. I really need some of your suggestions. Okay, that's it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Thanks for watching today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.